One of the hardest things about gaming for me is the end of a console generation. Transitioning over to a new machine to play the latest games is difficult. Exciting, but difficult. I know that I won't have my primary focus placed on the games I'm currently playing, and loving playing. Yeah, I know that I can always keep my old systems hooked up to my TV or on hand to play my beloved games, which is what I do, but I will soon be putting them on the back burner, or in a closet to experience the newest games being released, which is why backwards compatibility is so important to me. It keeps the legacy of these games alive for a new generation of people to discover and play. Unfortunately, not all console manufacturers include backwards compatibility on their new systems, like the PS4 or the Nintendo Switch. There are other ways games are being made available for new generations of gamers, like Nintendo's Virtual Console. This made getting classic and not so classic titles from multiple past gaming systems available. The prices for these games were also very reasonable. However, not all generations of gaming had the luxury of the internet helping provide easy ways to access retro games. Take for instance the NES. When I was growing up, my parents had bought our family an NES that we played to death. Once the Super Nintendo came out, they got rid of the NES in favor of moving forward with the new hardware and games. When this happened, there was no way for us to play the games I had grown to love. All of my friends' parents did the exact same thing. It was commonplace for this kind of thinking. Out with the old and in with the new. I specifically remember wanting to play Super Mario Bros. 3, but there was absolutely no way for me to play it. Luckily for me, Nintendo would eventually provide a way. They would gift us a special game to let us replay a small part of the NES catalog on the newest console. The reason my parents bought us an NES was to play Super Mario Bros. I wasn't even alive when the original Mario title was released, though I grew up seeing everyone around me playing it. It's the game I and many others first began sharpening our platforming skills. The simple controls allow you to begin with very little information needed to start, and most importantly, it's fun. Really fun. The game is riddled with all sorts of secrets and quirks to discover, like being able to walk on the top of the screen. When you do it for the first time, it's kind of liberating. You realize that this game is different. You can do things that you normally aren't supposed to. Then, to compound the feeling of discovery, you come to a drop down with 4 warp pipes. Obviously, you're going to go to World 4. It'll put you further along in the game. In World 4, after you beat the first few levels, you come to another underground stage. Of course, you're going to try to get up to the top of the screen again. In fact, it's even easier to pull off thanks to this platform. Wouldn't you know it? It also leads to a warp pipe to World 5. Not as much of a world advancement, but it's still a fun discovery. Nintendo would ride the success of Super Mario Bros. With the 1988 release of Super Mario Bros. 2 in North America. However, this game is different than the first Mario game. You immediately start seeing the differences the second you turn on the game. You see the player select screen. You can play as not only Mario, but also Luigi, Toad, and Princess Toadstool. The differences don't stop there. Once you select the player, you start the stage by falling down. If you fell down in the original Mario Bros., you would lose a life. You go through the door and the game starts resembling the original Mario title. You run to the right and try to get to the end of the stage. However, these enemies look way different, and strangely you can pull vegetables out of the ground and throw it to kill the new types of enemies. Very strange indeed. Also, there are rooms in each stage that have you digging down or climbing upward. Why is this game so different? Why didn't Nintendo make a sequel that is more in line with the first game? By now, we're all aware that this is just a reskin of a game known as Doki Doki Panic. Super Mario Bros. 2 might be different, but it's also really fun. At the time, I didn't think too much about this game's differences. I just figured this is the next evolution in the Mario series. I wasn't any good at it when I was younger, but I've gained an appreciation through the years. In early 1990, one of the greatest games of all time was released in North America. It was mega hyped in the movie The Wizard, which taught us all where the first warp whistle was located. Seriously, how would anybody know where the secret was on their first playthrough? Super Mario Bros. 3 went back to the classic side-scrolling Mario fun we had in the original Mario game, but polished up the controls and added a ton of charm. This game has gone down as one of the most beloved games in all of gaming. I personally played this game to death as a kid. I was very young when it came out, but I still have vivid memories discovering all that this game had to offer. Like I said previously, my parents got rid of my NES with all of my games. I didn't complain because I was so excited to play my new Super Nintendo. It wasn't until I played through Super Mario World several times that I felt a longing to replay the previous Mario titles. Christmas of 1993, I was gifted one of my favorite games of all time. I unwrapped Super Mario All-Stars. When I ripped off the wrapping paper, I thought it was a whole new Mario game. I wasn't aware that it had 4 Mario games included on the cartridge, 3 of which were the original Mario games from the NES. When I popped it into the Super Nintendo and started up Mario 3, I was shocked at how different it looked. Not only did Nintendo gift us the ability to play these games on the Super Nintendo, they remastered each game with 16-bit graphics. What an amazing thing Nintendo allowed us to buy. I played through all the NES games on the Super Mario All-Stars cartridge. Each environment is fuller and richer than before. They are enhanced in every way, visually, mechanically, and even the music and sound effects have been updated. What once was flat and quite dull now has rich color and dimension. Let's look at the original Super Mario Bros. The second this game starts playing, you can tell that it's drastically different. The background now has parallax scrolling. The plants move as if there's wind blowing through the environment. The sky has a gradient going from light blue to dark blue. The clouds now have their own distinct shape. They aren't just the plant models turned white. Mario looks different. More like the Mario from Super Mario World. The warp pipes have a slight shine to them, making them look more cylindrical. This game looks gorgeous. But it doesn't stop there. The underground levels have also been overhauled. The blank solid black background has now been given lights to lighten it up. There are also wooden beams hinting that the earth is being braced, holding back the walls from caving in. It's also a purplish blue color that I really like the look of. The music and sound effects also have an echo added to them, selling the underground cavern story a little bit more. In World 5, the first stage has been given a winter theme. The layer of snow on the ground makes you think that you are in a whole different world and not a rehash of a previous level you've already played. The castles have also been treated to a visual upgrade. Columns have been added to the background to add a little class to Bowser's castle, instead of just a blank black void. And the lava looks like it could be lava. The old sawtooth looking lava always looked so rigid. Now it's actually boiling. Moving on to Super Mario Bros. 2. The NES stage screen looks bad. It resembles a Game Boy game. Why is everyone on the screen red, brown, and tan? Look at Princess Toadstool's eye. Similar to the first game, the Mario All-Stars version overhauls all the visuals, music, and sound effects. Look at the title screen now. The characters are all wearing their signature colors. Princess Toadstool has blonde hair. Her eyes have been fixed too. The stage screen has been massively improved. But if you think that's what you'll be playing, you're wrong. The real stage looks even better. Look at all the foliage in the background. Everything looks like it's had life injected into it. The colors look saturated, the plants are moving even more than the original, and the parallax scrolling all come together so perfectly as to make this version of Super Mario Bros. 2 the go-to version to play. My favorite entry in the NES Super Mario Bros. Games is definitely Mario 3. This game looks great on the NES. The levels and overworlds are all full of character and whimsy. I really like how you have to fight the bosses in the flying ships. What an awesome concept. If you lose, you have to go back and find the ship because it flies away. Moving over to the All-Stars version, the visuals have been upgraded as one would expect after playing the other 2 games on the cartridge. It looks so much better than the original unsaturated game. Yes, I know that those colors are part of the NES charm, but come on, look at this versus this. There's no question as to which one is better. It's this. Again, everything has been updated and given depth and dimension. Now, a game can look as good as it wants. The real question is, how does it play? The controls in the first Super Mario Bros. Game have been changed. Personally, I prefer the revised controls. Mario has been updated with a feel more in line with Mario 3, but still retains some of the original feel. Mario 2 feels pretty much the same as the original Mario 2, and Mario 3 also retains the same controls as the original NES release. Or they're close enough that I can't discern any difference between the 2 releases. There's one game that I haven't mentioned, and that's the Lost Levels. This game is the true Super Mario Bros. 2. It wasn't released in the United States because it was deemed too frustrating for American players. I don't have too much experience with this game, so I'll be revisiting it in the future. There's only 2 official ways to play Super Mario All-Stars. You can play the original cartridge for the Super Nintendo or the re-release on the Wii, which coincided with the 25th anniversary of Mario. The Wii version was a very sought-after game for quite some time before it was given the Nintendo Selects treatment. However, this version was criticized for being an exact copy of the original game. There is no added content. What you see on the disc is exactly what's on the cartridge. Some people thought that it should have been more robust to celebrate the 25th Mario anniversary. Say what you will about this version of the game, it is by far the least expensive way to officially play Super Mario All-Stars today. I know that there will be people saying that you can play most of these games on the Game Boy Advance, but those weren't included as a Super Mario All-Stars package. Those were all made as individual games that were all sold separately and in wider aspect ratios. Super Mario All-Stars was a very important release. Nintendo gave us an updated version of some of the best games ever made. Not only did it introduce these games to a whole new generation of players, but it also kept the flame alive for the players that played these games when they were originally released. It would have been so easy to leave these games in the past to be a relic of their time. Luckily for us, they weren't. The transition to the Super Nintendo was a little bit easier knowing that these games were available. We were given a timeless 16-bit gift that includes some of the very best gaming has to offer.